because paper number 4 is so complex and probably something that you've never done before, I thought I would go even further and provide some tips for success to help you accomplish this essay. Because again, it's a complex one, and it's, in terms of argumentation, it's very different. So I do hope that you enjoy working with it, but here are some ideas to get you rolling if you're stuck. Hopefully this information helps you out a bit. So there are some things that you need to do before you even start your essay. The number one thing I suggest for you to do is to orient yourself to your topic, which means you need to do some research first before you do anything. So you're only working with 3 topics, which are the Michael Brown shooting in Missouri, ISIS, or the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and Ebola. They're all very current and hot topics at the moment. So there's going to be a lot of stuff out there for you to look through and browse through, but it also means that you need to have a really good understanding of what is being said about these topics. So if you just think, oh, well, I could write about the shooting in Missouri, sure, whatever. You need a stronger perspective than that. So you need to research and see what other people are saying. What are the different perspectives that are going on with this topic at this time? What are the different sides? What are the different opinions? What are different people saying about this topic? And then you need to find what your perspective is. Was the police officer in the shooting justified or unjustified? Why? What happened? What was going on in that situation to make him justified or unjustified? So you need to understand the varying perspectives about the topic that are out there, but then you need to find your own. And then you have to determine how and where you're going to join that conversation about the topic. Imagine all of the different publications about any one given topic as a conversation. At first, you're going to simply be reading those and looking at those objectively to see what's going on within that conversation, as if you were looking at a group of people. You're listening to them, you're listening to what they have to say, and by listening to what they're saying, you can then create your own perspective. So that's when you start thinking and generating your own perspective. And then you have to step up and write your essay and join that conversation in some way. Who are you going to agree with? Who are you going to bring into your essay to support your argument? How are you going to address people who disagree with your perspective? So again, imagine this as one big conversation about a topic. You have to know what the people are saying. You have to know what you are going to say. And then you have to know how you're going to join in and actually say it. And again, researching is going to be the number one way to do that. And when you research, you can look at more, general, you can, like, for instance, if you want to read about ISIS and write about ISIS, you can go to Wikipedia and get a very general historic background of what ISIS is, where it came from, what its origins are, what its purpose is, things like that. That's not saying that you can use Wikipedia in your paper necessarily, but it will give you a stronger background on the topic itself. So when you're just doing some general research and trying to find what perspectives are out there, you can research anything. Think about the political stances on any given topic and go out there and find those. So perhaps you want to go to a more liberal newspaper such as the New York Times to get varying perspectives there, but then you want to go to a more conservative one like perhaps CNN or Fox, because the political makeup of each publication is going to have a huge impact on what it is that they're saying and the perspectives that they're willing to publish. So just going to one publication is not good enough. You really need to give yourself a broad perspective. So do research first. Find out what other people are saying, figure out what your stance is, and then figure out how you can add to that conversation. Another thing you need to do before you get started is to define important terms. And when it comes to the theory itself, there are a lot of terms in there that you could, define. The theory as Beckman and Stair define it is not really clear in what exactly the mass media is, for example. So what do they mean when they're referring to mass media? Does that just mean news stations or newspapers? What is defined by the mass media? It's extremely important for you to know. Any other terms that are in the article that you don't understand, you need to define them. So define important terms in order to use them. Also, you need to define important terms that relate to your topic specifically. Again, going back to ISIS, what does it actually stand for? It's an acronym, again, that means the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And if you, again, do a general background on what ISIS is, you will start to see how you can define that term in different ways. So look at the theory, define any terms that you need to there, and see how they can add to your understanding and your own perspective. And then you need to identify any terms within your topic itself. So with a shooting, are there any law terms that you need to define in order to better understand that situation and that topic? With the Ebola topic, what about science? What are some scientific terms? What is Ebola? Why is it so scary? Why are people freaking out like that? And why would the media potentially want people to freak out about it? So make sure you have all the important terms and ideas defined so that you can better join in the conversation about them. It's hard to talk about something you don't know. Lastly, make sure you know the theory and how to apply it. I tried to help you with some ways to get a grip on what the theory is about, and it's just going to take some time, some close reading, and any discussion you would like to do with me, that's perfectly fine. Also, there will be a discussion board where you can work through the theory together as a class, so be sure to utilize that. Also, make sure you use any pre-writing techniques or any of the analytical tools that you have used so far this quarter. That is the entire point. Can you use a free write? Can you find a passage in a source that you want to use in your paper and then do a passage-based focused, I don't think I'm saying that title right, but I think it's a passage-based focused free write. I think that's it. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. So can you do a free write off of that quote? Can you use the method to apply to the theory? What can you do with the analytical tools that you have been using and reading about so far this quarter in order to help you? So use your pre-writing, use the analytical tools, and use the discussion board to help really understand what the theory is. Also, a really good suggestion in terms of creating your thesis or assertion, because remember, this is an argument. You have to prove your point. You have to make a point and you have to prove it, and it has to be an arguable point. So one way to do this is to start with a question that relates the topic and the theory together, and then turn that question into a thesis statement. So for example, I've got some terms that I pulled out of the theory. And so the question I would ask is, how did the media manufacture reality for the Michael Brown shooting, and how does that manufactured reality affect, sorry, I've totally screwed up that sentence. I'll go in and fix it. But how does that manufactured reality affect, how is it affected by the media's coding of information and non-information? So you'll see that my topic is in there with the Michael Brown shooting, but then you'll also see media, there we go, manufactured reality, and then the coding of information and non-information. So this is combining very, very specifically terms from the theory as well as the topic itself. Okay, so if you can pose a question that's this specific, you know that you're on the right track and that you're appropriately joining the theory to the topic. Okay, so from this question, I built a thesis statement. Now, here's my disclaimer to this thesis statement. I have not done any research. This is totally fictitious. I'm not saying this is necessarily true or what could be written about, but I'm trying to show the connection between the question and the thesis. So based on this question, and let's imagine I did research and found all sorts of things. So I turned that question into this thesis. Because the media sought to bring viewers the most up-to-date information, which goes back to the coding, it unnecessarily damaged the viewer's perception of the event, distorting the facts and causing the riots that ensued after the event occurred. Again, I'm not saying that that's necessarily true, but this, here's the topic, the riots, and what happened. The media sought to bring viewers up-to-date information, which is part of the coding, and then it damaged the viewer's perception, which is another element of the of the theory. So is this making sense? I hope so, because this is a really specific question that I asked using the topic and the theory, and then I came up with this thesis statement as a result of that question. This thesis answers that question. So if you can do this for yourself, you will know that you have a solid thesis statement. You will know that your thesis statement combines your topic and the theory, and it all starts out with a question. So what question do you want to know? How are you going to, and this is when you start using a reading as a lens, how can you apply this theory to your topic? Do it in the form of a question, and once you work through that question, start finding answers for yourself, that's when you build a thesis statement. All right, so some researching tips for this essay. By all means, feel free to use Google. Just make sure you do so with caution. Again, in the prompt, I say that you need to use non-web-only sources, and that just pretty much means it needs to be coming from an ultra-credible source, something that would potentially be printed in addition to being published online, so that it narrows the type of publications that you're going to look at, but it doesn't make it impossible to research. So don't get caught up on web only. A lot of students get scared by that terminology, but it just simply means be really careful what you're citing. So when you're using Google, you have to ask yourself, is the source credible? Is there an author? If there's not a specific person who is the author of what you're reading, I would be very leery of it. Also, if there is no source information, again, that's very concerning. Also, can you find a publication date? If not, that's another red flag. Think about the purpose of the publication. When you look at newspapers and publications like that, newspapers, magazines, that kind of stuff, their purpose is to make money. Yeah, it's to inform, but it's also to make a buck. If you're using the databases that you will find in the library's website, they are not out to make a dollar. They are simply there to inform people. It's a community of scholars who work together to create articles to enlighten their colleagues. So one is to make money, one is to not. How is that purpose affecting the credibility of the source that you're looking at? Also, as I've already talked about, what is the political stance of the publication? Are they ultra-conservative? Are they ultra-liberal? Is their political stance blinding them to certain perspectives and ideas? That's why you have to get a really broad idea about any given topic. If you know certain sources have a really heavy political leaning, you might want to stay away from them. It might be good to give you perspective, as I suggest you do at the very beginning of this process, but don't use things like that in your paper because it's going to give your paper a political leaning, which damages your own credibility. Also, avoid press releases. Press releases are things like you'd find on MSN.com, really quick snippets of news that mostly just keep you up to date on what's going on, but don't offer any real opinion or perspective or stance on that event. It's just the event details. They're usually very, very short, very succinct. What the police say, what this person says, what's happening, the details, things like that. Avoid those. Don't use those in your essay. Instead, use articles, things that are written by an author and are published in some way that are 1,500 words or more. So some places that you might want to start is the New York Times, the Atlantic, the New Yorker, Wall Street Journal, anything like that. These are all printed sources. They are not online only. So this is fine. This is safe. And let's go do a Google search together. So I've got 3 windows up, one for ISIS, one for Michael Brown, one for Ebola. And so when you go to Google, again, Google's not necessarily bad. You just have to be a lot more careful. So let's see here. Okay, here's the Islamic State of Iraq from Wikipedia. Okay, good for general knowledge, not good for citing in a source. Here's CNN.com. That's got a heavy political leaning to it. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. And it's fast facts. Maybe it will give you a really good perspective of what ISIS is, but again, not necessarily something you want in your paper. NBC News, probably not something you want in your paper. So let's find something you might want. The New York Times. That would be something good. Twitter, negative. Let's see here. And sometimes you will see, you will see a little link at the bottom that says more in-depth articles. These are safer sources that are articles as opposed to press releases or just general information. Let's see here. Ooh, online propaganda. That has to do with the media. You can see if it could relate to your topic or your stance at all. The New Yorker is a good stance. So why ISIS is our problem. That could put out there, why the United States should be concerned with it. So again, you just have to wade through here. The Guardian is a good source, but you can see once I hit on the in-depth articles, you've got the Atlantic, the Guardian, the New Yorker, the New York Times, things like that. So that's a good thing. With Michael Brown, when I researched it, and so this was just a search of ISIS by itself. When I went and searched Michael Brown, I did Michael Brown and the media. So conservative media coverage. Huffington Post is going to be one that's really political. So by all means, look at it, but be careful of it. But you can see this is obviously something about the media coverage within this event. So it directly applies. How the mainstream media helped kill Michael Brown. Okay, let's truthout.org. Could be kind of interesting. Blogs, really stay away from blogs. NPR, that could be a very, has potential to be a credible source. Ultimately, everything has potential. You just have to decide. MSNBC, let's see here. onthemedia.org. I don't know. You're going to have to look through all these different sources. I'm just trying to show you that, yeah, when you use Google, all these things are going to pop up, but you have to be really careful. All right, so then I searched Ebola in the media. So kind of USA Today, probably not the most credible. Another way to look is something a .com, or is it a .gov or a .org? So here's a .org. You still have to be careful with those because some that I found with a Michael Brown, like the truthout.org, I don't think I would trust that at all, but that's just me. So be careful of the .orgs. The .govs tend to be even safer. So let's see what we've got here again. A Huffington Post, that's okay. So you can use these again to give you general perspective over the topic, but you still have to be really careful, especially when it's something you want to include in your paper. So something else I wanted to show you, if you go over to this gear, I'm actually in Chrome searching, but it should be the same. If you go to advanced search, you can type in, exact wording and phrasings. You can leave words out, things like that. You can also change, well, I don't know if you'd really want to change the language, but you could. You could do the reading level. I changed the reading level to show only advanced results, which means you're going to get more of the in-depth articles. And you can see that the basic and the intermediate are the majority, whereas the advanced cuts it down quite a bit. Let's see here. Oh, JSTOR. JSTOR is an online database. JSTOR, very safe. Let's see here. The CDC. That could be a good place to go look for some perspective and some information about Ebola itself. So again, you can use the advanced search in order to help make your search just a little bit more specific. All right, let's move on to the library and how to use the databases. So let's start over. If you go to the Big Bend homepage, there we go. You come to Student Life, you go down related links, and you find the library. And then right in the middle, at the quick links, the first quick link, you do article and research database. And the one I'm going to suggest the most is ProQuest. It's going to cover a lot of different journals. Let's see here. Enter in your credentials. All right, so this is what a ProQuest search looks like. So you would do the same thing. You do Ebola, and let's add in the media just to see what we can come up with. Here you can also do full text, which I highly recommend. You can do peer-reviewed, which are the safest sources. This means that before an article was published, it was sent to a committee of fellow professors, instructors, whatever they are. They reviewed it and then said, okay, I give the green light, this is good work to publish. So this is why databases are so safe. They can be harder to use. The results might be a little more limited, but they're safer and they tend to be better quality. You can also select the type of source that you use, like scholarly journals. We'll try that. And you're going to have to play with all the different settings because it might limit your results too much. Or you might have a ton of results and be able to narrow it down. All right, so then you see all this information. So I've got 918 results. So at this point, you would then just go in and see what you have, look at the full text, download what you need to. But again, these sources that you will find from ProQuest tend to be a little bit better. What about... Oh my goodness. See what comes up from Michael Brown. Here you have to be really careful because if you want, let's see if this will change it. If you want a specific phrase with multiple words in it, put it in quotation marks. So now I have changed just Michael and Brown to Michael Brown just by adding quotation marks around that name. Okay. A lot of hurricane stuff. Not quite sure why. So let's go back and change our search. So you can do Michael Brown, add in the media, and then just a keyword like shooting. It's taking a moment. And notice I didn't capitalize the last name. It really shouldn't matter. Let's see here. All right, still having issues. So let's take out, and I found stuff before, so I know he's in here somewhere. Take out the first name. Okay, effects of news media, message about mass shootings on ad. Okay, kinda. Okay, so now it's looking more at the shooting aspect. See, and now you can tell why Google searching is so much quote unquote easier. But again, you have to be a lot more careful. The median criminologist, that might not necessarily be about the Michael Brown shooting, but it could give you really good information about what happens when there is a crime and the media gets involved. So even if it's in the Journal of Criminal Justice Education, totally credible, this could just be kind of a different perspective that has nothing to do with the topic itself, but still gives good information. So again, keep your perspective really broad when you do researching. Don't limit yourself to thinking, oh, I only can find sources that connect my topic to the media and how the media is, affecting how the people receive. You don't have to do that. You can go out and be more broad than that. So I don't want this to take too much of your time. But make sure that you just really try. And it's very time consuming. Research is extremely time consuming. So change your terms if you get stuck. Look around Google and ProQuest. And if you have any questions or hit any roadblocks, you know that you can just let me know and we can work through it together. You can also bring up these kind of questions on the discussion board. next week. Just really, put in the best effort that you can and understand that researching is hard. Researching takes a lot of time, but it should be worth your while. So I hope this has been helpful. I apologize for the length. And if you have any questions, let me know.